Yes, sir. Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, and Donavan Jackson are staying at Ohio State.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Not one, not two, but three more Buckeyes announced they're staying at Ohio State, and they're going to help Ohio State be all it can be in the upcoming season. Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes here on Thursday, January 11th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Not one, not two, but three more Ohio State players have announced that they're staying at Ohio State, and these three are huge, headlined by Denzel Burke, but you got Jordan Hancock, you got Donavan Jackson, two on defense, one on offense, and what do you get? More players that are letting everyone know that there's unfinished business and they're not happy with how things have ended at Ohio State, not just this year, but over the past few years. The loss to Michigan, past couple years, losing in the bowl game. This is huge, man. Denzel Burke was one of those guys that I kind of expected would automatically go to and declare for the NFL draft. He's a future, I do believe this year, if he came out, he would be a first-round pick. The numbers will be one thing, but he was one of those guys that during the season, what do we find? Opposing offensive coordinators didn't want to test him. Opposing quarterbacks didn't want to test him, which is why his numbers are the way they are, because when he got tested, what do we find? Nothing really happened for the offense. I was positive. We also saw him step up and be phenomenal in the run game and tackling on the edge in a bigger way than I even expected at times. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, hey, he was so good he had 50 tackles. Didn't have that. Just didn't really have to be that guy on the edge at corner, being always the one tackling the guys on the outside. But what we find with Denzel Burke is you have experience. He's been a starter literally since day one. He's a leader. He's a big part of the secondary, being able to corral and lead that unit. But you also have in Jim Knowles a defensive coordinator that believes and knows he can trust Burke to be on an island, which is amazing and rare. The numbers for Denzel Burke are one thing. This year, 24 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 9 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. His freshman year had 12 PBUs, and that was one of those things where I'm like, oh, this man is not just starting since day one, but he's making noise on the field consistently. I do look to have more of that play from Denzel Burke in the upcoming season. But Jordan Hancock and Donavan Jackson, we cannot overlook those guys. Some said Jordan Hancock was one that would end up possibly declaring for the NFL draft, and I'm sitting here saying, I know he's eligible. I know he can. I just don't think it makes sense for him to do that. Him staying at Ohio State is huge. Another chance to be a Buckeye. Another year to be a Buckeye, Another year to get better. You put 2 years together back to back like Jordan Hancock did this year, what are you going to find? His draft stock is going to keep rising. He was one of those guys that early in the year, him and Sonny Styles kind of split time. If it was more run-heavy, Styles on the field. If it was more of a passing situation, Hancock on the field. And what did we find? Jordan Hancock was so good and so pivotal to the success of the defense, and he was playing so well, they really had a hard time taking him off the field because not only was he good in pass coverage, he was good in stopping the run as well. 41 tackles this year, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, 2 INTs, 5 PBUs, and 2 forced fumbles. Did it a little bit of everything. Had his hands in a little bit of the run game in the backfield, tipping passes. He was phenomenal this year in that nickel corner spot. And in next season, I don't really think Ohio State has to put a heavier guy there at that nickel safety or nickel corner or cover safety position. You don't. Just leave Jordan Hancock there. Because I think at the next level, he's going to be more of that nickel guy than an outside corner guy. And him staying at what he does so well at the next level, I said it recently with Jeff Hunt. It's a great way for him to get to the second contract in the National Football League. Donavan Jackson cannot be overlooked, and went back and saw some of the Pro Football Focus numbers for Donavan Jackson. This wasn't his best season. I mean, clearly, early on, late in the year, it wasn't his best year at all. But according to Pro Football Focus, last year, 2 sacks. He only allowed 13 pressures. This year, gave up 1 sack, only allowed 10 pressures. So at times we're saying, oh, Donavan Jackson was not the guy, was not what we thought he was going to be. What is he? Solid, consistent, has 26 consecutive starts between the first time he started in the first game of last year and this year. That's huge. That's longevity. And that is something that I think at the next level, they're going to look at and say, hey, is he durable? He checks that box. Does he allow a lot of sacks? No. He checks that box as well. Does he allow a stupid amount of pressures? I don't think 13 in a 13-game season or 10 in a 13-game season is horrible. Yes, it could be better. We would like for it to be better because we want everybody to be perfect at Ohio State. You don't give up any sacks. You give up 0 pressures. Quarterbacks don't throw any INTs. It's not realistic, but it would be nice if it was actually something that happened out there on the football field. These 3 guys staying, it's huge. Next year for the offensive line, Ohio State already brought in Seth McLaughlin from Alabama, and with Nick Saban retiring, which shook the college football world and the sports world as a whole when that was announced, what do we find? There might be more Alabama guys that are jumping in the portal to say, hey, we don't know who the next coach is going to be, and I don't want to be here and wait around to find out. I am gone. Ohio State might be able to go down to Tuscaloosa and say, oh, you want to be an offensive lineman here? Great. We got a hole. You can instantly fill it. And you can see a lot of guys coming in that are on the outside currently, coming into Columbus to make the roster a whole lot better than it currently is. Donavan Jackson next year, starting left guard. Simmons next year, starting left tackle. Center, I would put Carson Hinsman back. I would put Seth McLaughlin, the Alabama transfer, at right guard to replace Matthew Jones. And then ultimately, that right tackle's position, I am not sold on Josh Fryer. I am not at all. I normally am a guy that's going to be all for the Indiana kids, as I am from Indiana myself, just like Josh Fryer. Hey, buddy, what we saw this year wasn't it. Had some good moments, don't get me wrong. He's not trash. Well, not atrocious consistently, but hey, they got to open up a competition at that spot at right tackle. And if Fryer wins it, great. But if not, if you can go out there and get somebody in the portal to replace and be a better right tackle, so be it. You got Luke Montgomery. You got Tega Tishabola, 2 guys that can play that role, I do think, next year and be really good at it. Let's see what happens over the next few months leading into the spring game before we start penciling in any backups at that position. Donavan Jackson, Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke are staying at Ohio State. I went back and looked at the defense for the Buckeyes and just looked at the guys that are leaving and the guys that are staying. Well, man, Michael Hall Jr. gone. Steel Chambers gone. Eichenberg gone. Proctor gone. Jalen Tuamaloa has not announced what he's doing yet. But outside of that, Mike Hall gone. Okay, cool. Got Ty Hamilton. Was more productive than Hall this year on the stat sheet. 2 new linebackers. I believe the Buckeyes will be good there next year. Proctor gone. You got guys on the roster that can fill that hole. Now, losing Tuamaloa would be huge. But, man, if he stays, this defense could be better in 2024 than it was in 2023. Coming up next, we discuss a big announcement that came from Ohio State regarding Parker Fleming. It's coming at you next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Find exclusive flash deals, sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats for big time savings. And now the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find the tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with your local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel found only at the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Some of you have been waiting for this to come from Columbus, from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and it has been announced that Ohio State's former special teams coach in 2023, and Parker Fleming, would not be the special teams coach in 2024. The Buckeyes have decided they were not going to retain Parker Fleming as the special teams coach. This is one of those announcements that, well, many people focus on the kicking and special teams and say, well, if your kicking is good, you're fine. You'll keep your job. Ohio State special teams have not been special at all. It's actually been pretty bad. You would think the athletes at Ohio State would be able to create some lanes and get loose and cut loose for on punt returns and kick returns. Nope. Now I do understand the fair catch rule is one of those things that, well, on kickoff, you can fair catch it up. Okay, cool. It's a stupid rule. It's really, really dumb. But hey, people still use it on punt. Why are we consistently fair catching the ball inside the 10-yard line or even inside the 5? Why? Why are we doing this? One thing I learned a long time ago, if the punt is inside the 15, don't go get it. Plant your feet on the yard line. And if it goes over your head or goes behind you, so be it. Let it go. And I'm not going to come out here and start singing the Frozen song. I am not going to do it. Some of y'all was, no, I was actually really close to doing it. No, not today. Not today. Maybe another time here on the show. Parker Fleming being gone could be two things. One, you need improvements from the special teams. That's a given. That's an automatic. But the other one might be Ohio State opening up a spot on their 10 assistant coach roster, which is allowed by the NC2A, to bring in an offensive coordinator. And an offensive coordinator that is similar to Jim Knowles, where he was well respected in the sport, has a track record of leading Jim Knowles' successful defenses with his scheme. The offensive coordinator has a track record of leading successful offenses. He can be a play caller. I'm going to touch on that later on, possibly next week, maybe even tomorrow. Not really sure yet. But also someone that will instantly come in and recruit at a high level. I went back and looked at some of the numbers for the kickers in over Parker Fleming's 3 years at Ohio State. Mirko was the only punter. Last year was his best year as punt yardage, average 45.4. This year, 43.7. Not good at all. Kicking game, really, really odd. There's never been a year at Ohio State that the kickers have made every single extra point. Not one under Parker Fleming, not one at all. And then for the field goal percentage, that wasn't good either. So I understand missing one it may happen, but there's been previous kickers that have made every single one. It should be a given. Ohio State also made a coaching announcement, and they hired, I believe it's Matt Oh man, I can't say his name. I had it on my tongue, and I had it right there, and I was like, "Oh, I know how to say this." I don't know how to say it. I don't. It's Matt G. I'm struggling. Matt Guerreri. Let's go with that. He is a new safeties coach. And one interesting thing about this young man is that he used to coach with Jim Knowles when Knowles was at Duke. And he actually praised Jim Knowles for some of the success and how Jim Knowles helped him and kind of helped him come up the coaching ranks. He was actually last year, he was the co-defensive coordinator and safeties coach at Indiana when Indiana got a new coach. The new coach did not retain Matt G. We'll go ahead and call him that for now. And then, lo and behold, he's back at the place, Matt G, that he was at in 2022 because Ryan Day hired Matt G in 2022 to be a senior advisor and analyst at Ohio State. And so it's not so much that Matt G had a time period with Jim Knowles at Duke when Jim Knowles was not only a defensive coordinator, but also, I believe, he was there for quite a long time, honestly. Forget Knowles' complete role, but they were together for 7 years there at Duke, and they're together with Knowles. So they got to coach together. They got to come up the ranks together, got to get a lot of experience together. But his experience with Day, and Day already hiring him once and trusting him is huge. One thing we know, Ryan Day, we're talking about the coaches at the end of the season. This was before it came out that Perry Eliano would be gone and Parker Fleming would be gone. Ryan Day is emphasizing recruiting. And Perry Eliano, even though the safeties played a whole lot better this year, there were some misses in recruiting during his 2 years at Ohio State as a safeties coach. That's not something that is a stretch of the imagination. It's reality. So for the new special teams coach, whoever it might be, maybe internally or maybe somebody from the outside who comes in and fills that role, or for Matt G, you better emphasize recruiting. And you better be out there on that road, maybe in the plane. If you got to drive to a high school, great, whatever it may be, doing what is needed to bring in elite talent at the positions you recruit at every single year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not something that we're coming out here saying, oh, we can, it's just for a time period. It's not needed all the time. Nope. This ain't it. Y'all, this ain't it. Recruiting has to be at an elite level at all times. What is Ohio State trying to do this year that they have not done over the past few years? Beat Michigan. What is the first goal every single year? Beat Michigan. You played them game 12, Thanksgiving weekend. So you can be 11-0 and still not accomplish your first goal, which is what class? Beat Michigan. I know we're not in a classroom setting, but you understand. That is the goal. You beat Michigan, you have a chance to win the Big Ten championship. Now, next year, it's still like you can lose to Michigan and still get into the Big Ten championship game, but still, it's the first goal. Accomplish it. And then after that, what is it? Win the Natty. I didn't make the rules. I didn't set the goals. I'm just here to relay to you what has been relayed from the players and the coaches about what their goals are every single year. How do you beat Michigan? How do you win the Big Ten championship game for the first time since 2020? How do you win a national championship for the first time since 2014? Recruit at a high level and develop the talent when it comes to Columbus. Oh, might I add something real quick? Michigan fans out here acting a fool right now because they won the Natty. Have you realized this is their first outright national championship since 1948? Could be me. Oh, no. Oh, no. Couldn't be me. For the first, yes, literally, the one that they say they won in 97, that was a split national championship. Nebraska has the other half of that because back at that period, Michigan won the Rose Bowl, and they were voted by a poll national champion. the national championship game Nebraska won because the Big Ten and Pac-12 could not be a part of it due to contractual obligations with the Rose Bowl. In come the BCS the next year, and we had the first true national championship game. We still found a way to get split national champions. This sport is so weird. I'll talk about that later. But back to the subject at hand. What does Matt G need to do at a high level? Recruit at a high level. Get the elite players to Columbus, get them on campus, then develop them to be elite football players. Larry Johnson's been out there on that recruiting trail, and he just snagged a really good edge rusher off the trail in Philadelphia, PA. We'll discuss who the latest Buckeye commit is next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL postseason is almost here, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Guys, that's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find a popular parlay and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Once again, visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. And did you know Billiards Plus has top-of-the-line grills with up to 30-year warranties? That's longer than most roofs. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Alhassan, Canada, Billiards, and more. Plus, top-of-the-line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and the Griddle. That could very well be the last grill you own. The perfect gift for any occasion is in stock at Billiards Plus. Go big with an awesome pool table or shuffleboard table, or a little more modest with a dartboard or poker table. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. And the people at Billiards Plus are the best part of the experience. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will take amazing care of you. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Central Drive in Dublin. Mentioned it on yesterday's show, but I want to mention it once again. Next week, my wife and I will be on our honeymoon. We'll be on a cruise to the Bahamas. We've never been on a cruise. Either one of us have never been to the Bahamas either. So we're checking things off of our bucket list maybe, and also going to an island to get away from this weird Midwest weather. It's going to be cold next week. I won't be in the midst of the cold weather. I'll be on the beach having a good old time with my woman. The show is not going to die, though. There will be shows every day next week, every Monday. Not every Monday through Friday. Some are already recorded. You'll get to hear one from Jeff Hunt and myself, one from Mo Murphy and myself, and some other great things coming your way right here on Locked On Buckeyes. Larry Johnson has received a lot of criticism over the past few years about the misses in recruiting. One of them being Keon Keeley in last year's cycle, defensive end. What happened? He decided to go to Alabama over Ohio State. It happens. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But when you win some, it sticks and it hits and it means a whole lot. You don't want to lose all of it or miss on a lot. That's not a good look. When you're able to get a top 5 edge rusher in the class of 2025, that is huge. Who is a player? Zahir Mathis from Hotep Institute in Philadelphia, PA, a 4-star player via 247 Sports composite rankings, via the composite rankings as well. The number 37 ranked player in the class, and also via the same rankings, the number 1 player in Pennsylvania. This young man is going to instantly fill a need, and people have been saying, where's the edge rusher? Where is he at? When are we going to get more sacks? Zahir Mathis is that guy. Sitting at 6 foot, don't want to say this wrong, 6'6", 225 pounds. He is somebody, and when you watch the film, you see he knows how to get the tackle where he wants them, get around, dip around a little bit around the edge, and get the quarterback. I've also seen him via some film study and things like that, chase downfield the ball carrier. And what happened? One play, hey, he made sure you felt him when that tackle was made. He has different moves. He's not just a speed guy or an edge guy. He has a little bull rush. He has some technique to him as well. He is one of those guys that in recruiting class, you find linebackers, you find quarterbacks, you find D linemen. And what do you find? There are other players in the class that, one, know the athlete, that two, know how good that athlete is, and three, some of them want to play with that young man when they're playing college football in the future. Currently in the 2025 recruiting class, Ohio State currently has 6 commits right now. There is 1 5-star, 3 4-stars, and 2 3-stars. The 1 5-star is Devin Sanchez from Houston, Texas. He is the number 2 corner in the class. Zahir Mathis, the only D lineman on the group right now. 4-star, you have Tavian St. Clair, the in-state product from Bellefontaine, Ohio. The number 3 quarterback in the class. He's a 4-star. You got Blake Woodby from Baltimore, Maryland. Another corner. Javon Boggs from Cocoa, Florida. I almost said Cocoa Beach, is what I'm used to saying. He's a receiver. And then Eli Lee from Akron, Ohio, from Archbishop Hoban, is a linebacker standing at 6'3", 215 pounds. This is a cycle where Ohio State has to have, I would say, 60 linemen, really no less than 4. But you got to emphasize not just the edge, but just numbers overall in this group. Why? Because if Tuimoloau decides to declare for the NFL draft, what are you finding? Next year's starting defensive line is gone automatically, no questions asked. That's where we are. And what do you want to find? If Tuimoloau stays, Keanu Jackson Jr. is not getting a lot of experience next year. More, but not starting experience. Caden Curry, same thing. Hero Canoe. You're going to get a lot of Tyrone Malone. You're going to get a lot of guys that you would say, hey, they can play. They're good. They can play somewhere. But they want to stay at Ohio State. And what do you find? If you're staying at Ohio State in that unit, your chances of starting next year, not going to happen. Got to wait one more year to get on the field consistently, and one more year to start, which is why Larry Johnson must, absolutely must, recruit at an elite level and add numbers. Yes, the quantity is needed. The quality is needed as well. Need both of those guys at this position next year. And next year's Ohio State recruiting class. Out of here on a Thursday. One more show in the week. It's going to be a good one. Trust me, got a lot of good stuff being whipped up in the lab for your enjoyment tomorrow on Locked On Buckeyes. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at JStevens07. You can send all your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Once again, I want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on the YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, found only at the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're out of here on a Thursday, Buckeye fans. We will see you next time.